Hey science class! Most of the cells in our body have a full set of chromosomes, but sex cells, like the egg and the sperm, have only half a set. Why do you think that is? Okay, that was our journal for Wednesday on February 7th, and I'll tell you why. Okay, you have the egg and the sperm. Okay, whereas most of our cells in our body have 46 chromosomes. And the egg only has 23 and the sperm only has 23. So that when they combine to produce a human baby, this human will have 46 chromosomes in each one of its cells. Okay? So let's go into it a little bit more. Meiosis is the process of making these sperm and their eggs and these eggs. Okay, it's cell division that creates gametes, which are eggs and sperm, with half the number of chromosomes. Okay, remember that we have two copies of every single gene. Okay, one copy comes from our mother and one copy comes from our father, so that when they combine, we have two copies all together. Okay? And I know we don't know much about chromosomes yet, but just a brief overview. Chromosomes are organized DNA that code for our genes. Okay, so here's a chromosome right here. And sections of that DNA code for certain genes. So this gene right here might be a widow's peak. And this gene right here might be your hitchhiker's thumb. Okay? And here is an example of our 23 pairs of chromosomes. Okay? Here's a pair right here. This one might come from your dad, and this one might come from your mom. Okay, and we get 23 pairs total, and our chromosomes determine if we're male or female. Okay, so here, if we inherit what we call the X chromosome, okay, we inherit an X chromosome from our mother. Okay, and if we get two of those, one from our dad, we become female, and if we inherit this Y chromosome, we become male. Okay, so let's go over the process of meiosis really quickly. We're not going to get too deeply into it, but we start with this parent cell. Okay, this is just a normal old cell. Okay, and it has 46 chromosomes. Okay, two copies of every single gene. And then it's going to go through this process called crossing over. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Okay, crossing over. It's a super important step. Okay, and so now we have all these copies of these genes, and now the cells divide. So now we have two copies of every gene in these two cells. Okay, and then it's going to go through this little stages again. Chromosomes are going to line up so that everything's organized, and it's going to split again. Okay, so now we have 4 cells, each with one copy of every gene. Okay, and those might become a sperm or an egg. Okay, sperm or egg cells. Okay, so let's talk about this really important step called crossing over. Crossing over is one of the reasons why you're unique. So let's think back to your mom and your dad. Okay, they both got a chromosome from grandpa. Okay, which would be your grandpa. Okay, and one from grandma. Okay, or their mom and dad. Okay, and then this crossing over happens, and that's where some genes switch places. So maybe now grandma's green eyes are now switched with grandfather's brown eyes on grandfather's chromosome, okay? And so you get this unique chromosome that's a mixture of your family, okay? There's some genes from your grandmother, some genes from your grandfather, and that happens with your dad's chromosomes as well. So that when you inherit each copy of the chromosomes, you are completely unique. Okay? And these cells over here, these might become your brothers or your sisters. Okay? Because each sex cell, each sperm or egg is completely unique. Okay? And that's what's one of the incredible things about meiosis. Meiosis creates unique but similar gametes. Okay? This could be you. Okay? This could be your brother. This could be your sister. Every single egg and every single sperm is completely different from one another. Okay? And that's why siblings look similar but different. Okay? And however, sometimes meiosis doesn't work correctly. And this is an example right here. If you look at all these chromosomes, this individual inherited a third chromosome. Okay? And they just have too many genes in that location, and so it causes a whole bunch of problems. And it's called Edwards syndrome. And usually the babies don't survive much past infancy, if at all. And they have a lot of problems. They have a lot of heart problems. They have a lot of physical problems, and that's just one of the something that happens in meiosis sometimes. It's very rare, but it does happen. So that is the process of meiosis in a nutshell. Okay, a very basic overview. And meiosis is really important for making unique people, okay, unique individuals. So I look forward to continuing to learn genetics with you guys, and hopefully this makes sense. Okay.